Hello, my name is Simon Double, and welcome to Inside the Rails, a monthly podcast for horse racing enthusiasts everywhere. We're generously sponsored by the RSA, the Racehorse Syndicates Association, so a big thank you to them. And as ever, I'm joined by my co-host, Phil Boyle from BG Racing. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hi, Simon. Yeah, thrilled that we've managed to get to episode 4 of the podcast, and we seem to be growing every month, which is all good. And yeah, we hopefully that will continue. If people can continue to give us positive reviews and subscribe, they'll hear about future episodes, and hopefully we can keep that listener base growing and be around for several months more to come.
Well, that's excellent. Glad to know that there are still people out there listening to us. I should just say we have had one or two technical issues today, so we are actually recording remotely. But I know Callum Ronan, our editor, does a great job, and I'm sure that actually it'll be seamless. There'll be hardly any difference. But just thought I should point that out. We've had quite a bit of bad weather, Phil. So you're a National Hunt man. How has that impacted upon you?
Yeah, it's been a month of Groundhog Day, I'm afraid. Been trying to get a run for one of our horses. We've been entering her into races at the sort of 5-day entry stage, and then watching the weather reports only to see the meeting fall foul of either waterlogging and then freezing and then waterlogging again. And obviously when the races did go ahead, everybody was trying to run their horses. So even there was a couple where she actually got balloted out because there were too many runners in the race. So, but we finally broke the cycle last Saturday. So I'm hoping that from now I can sort of enjoy some slightly different days rather than worrying about watching the weather forecasts all the time.
Well, of course, us Brits, we are all obsessed with the weather, aren't we? And of course, us Brits working in the racing industry were even more obsessed with the weather. I was talking to the RSA chairman, Dan Abraham, who we're hoping to get on as our guest the next monthly podcast. And he runs National Hunt Syndicates. And he told me he had one horse who's had 10 different entries, and it's not made one of them because of the weather. So I sympathise with you, National Hunt boys, but you now know why I run Solaria Racing on the flat. Fair weather, man.
He said the same thing to me, but I thought only 10, Dan. I didn't like to tell him how many we'd done with our horse. So you've been busy this month as well, haven't you, Simon, with the RSA, the Racehorse Syndicates Association? We're both on the committee there, and I know we're relaunching a new website and putting together a new newsletter for our members, and I think both of them have fallen on your lap.
They have, yes, a glutton for punishment. Now, I'm enjoying it, but there's lots of very exciting developments with the RSA. We're relaunching our website, which should be up and running in about 3 to 4 weeks' time. We've got our first newsletter going out to our 70-plus members. I think we've got about 79 members now. And just for people out there, you don't just have to run syndicates. You can run racing clubs to join the RSA. We've got our first newsletter going out on the 5th of March. We've got a forum coming up for syndicators to take part and express their views. Haven't got time to discuss it today, but there's things like the Gambling Commission going on. So we'll be having a forum, and regulation of syndicates, very important. We'll be discussing that. We're very active on Twitter at the moment. And on a personal note, Solaria Racing, I am totally on the flat, so certainly won't be having any horses running at Cheltenham. But I am doing a Cheltenham at home. I do quite a lot of networking, and I did a Royal Ascot at home via Zoom last June, and one of the ladies who's a solicitor for a local company was quite impressed, and they come back to me and they want me to do a Cheltenham at home for 40 of their clients or 40 of their contacts. So I should be doing that on Gold Cup Day. So no doubt I'll be tapping your brain for a few tips beforehand, Phil.
Well, that's great. And hopefully that attracts a few more people in. You know, I mean, a lot of syndicates do those kind of events on Zoom, and that's an added benefit of being a shareholder in a syndicate. So hopefully you persuade some of these people that aren't yet shareholders that it might be a good thing to get involved with.
Well, hopefully, and I've got as one of my special guests, Colin Brown, who people may remember was the rider who rode Desert Orchid to many. I think he rode 17 victories on that great grey Desert Orchid. So he's coming on to actually go through the form and go through the card with me. So looking forward to having him on. And something to look forward to on Gold Cup Day. But I guess we should also talk about Boris Johnson's roadmap a little bit and the impact that it's had on owners going back to the races, when they'll go back, and spectators, without giving chapter and verse on Boris's roadmap. But in terms of racing, Phil, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, it looks like we're going to be able to, have I mean, groups of two is not going to be very good for getting owners back up to the stables because, we'll have to. As soon as you add the trainer to the mix, you're breaking the rules. But we're going to have groups of six fairly soon, and I think that'll be great to get some owners back up to the stables and seeing their pride and joy on the gallops, which is all part of that ownership experience. So, I'm certainly looking forward to getting to that point where we can get a small group of people up to the stables to see the horses. And then obviously once the restrictions move into the area where we can have groups of 30, then, the gloves are off, as it were, and we can start organising some proper sort of events for syndicate members and getting larger groups up to the gallops and enjoying their ownership experience even more. I'm sure they must love the communications and the Zoom forums and things like that we put together for them, but there isn't anything quite like having that morning out on the gallops. And hopefully by the time we get back out there, the weather will be a little bit nicer and we'll have some lovely sunny mornings on the gallops and we won't be paddling through sort of knee-deep mud as well.
Well, I have to say, I mean, the way government works these days, these things are leaked, aren't they? So never mind before Boris was speaking at 7 o'clock to the nation, he was addressing Parliament at 3:30. Actually, if you went onto the BBC website at 11 o'clock in the morning, we all knew what was coming. Well, by early afternoon, I was already sending out emails to all of my owners saying from March the 8th, one of you can come up. And then from, March the 29th, 6 of you or 2 households can come up. I just couldn't wait to actually let owners know. I mean, I've been going up there 3 or 4 times. I've been up to the stables this year to Dean Ivory's because, like you, I can't do my job totally from home. But I've said to all my owners, and it has been frustrating, I'm sure you shared this, that, it's not essential travel. It's a hobby for you. You can't do it. So unfortunately, but I just couldn't wait to let them know. And I've got 1 or 2 owners who live on their own and they're just desperate to get out. They said, never mind just seeing the horses and the gallops. I want to see the other horses around the yard and just get out there and do something. So there is light at the end of this, what has been a long tunnel, but we're getting there, which is lovely.
Yeah. And obviously there was news this week that the racing authorities were meeting to discuss the roadmap and what that meant for owners on the racecourses. They haven't made any announcements yet, but hopefully we'll have some positive news on that soon. And we'll get back to that situation that we had last summer where, albeit I think we're going to be without spectators for a while, but hopefully we can get some owners back on the racecourse, which again is, another part of that ownership experience.
It's essential, isn't it, getting owners back as soon as we can?
Yeah, and the atmosphere is not quite the same as it would be with a load of spectators there. But actually, I'm sure nobody that has a winner minds the fact that there wasn't a crowd there to cheer it home. They'll still enjoy it if they can be there in person rather than watching on TV. So let's hope we get some positive news on that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, well, we've got Luke Harvey coming on later on. Obviously, he'll be covering the Cheltenham Festival. And, ITV Racing have done such a great job, haven't they, on syndicates? And they look, okay, they can't be at the races, but they've looked so genuinely excited watching their horse, and particularly, obviously, of course, if it wins. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, Luke will still be on the racecourse, even if the rest of us aren't. So hopefully he can deliver us some of the experience through our TV screens.
Well, Phil, I'm delighted to say we've got Luke Harvey on the line. So good morning.
Good morning.
Luke. You're a jockey turned broadcaster. You're very well known on ITV Racing. Eldest son of 7, I think, Devon farmer. And I know, I've done a little bit of research, you always knew you were going to be in racing and around horses. And I know that one of the big things that comes across on ITV is your passion for horses. So just tell us a little bit about the Luke Harvey story, about racing initially.
Yeah, I always, we started off, my parents were keen on going point to pointing. So we went point to point. My first recollection was going to a place right on the top of Exmoor called Bratton Down. It is literally on top of the world there and bleak, but it's a beautiful place. So we always had ponies around us. I went to Tiverton Comprehensive. You said I was the oldest of 7, but I always, in some ways to my detriment, I always wanted to be a jockey and had done from the age of 6. I think Mum had a diary of me writing in it saying that I wanted to be a jockey. And basically my whole school life revolved around get out the place so I could actually go into horse racing. My parents, although they could both ride, there's no horse racing background. And although my brothers and sisters rode, none of them do now. And So it wasn't necessarily racing, but we used to take the Daily Express, and I used to cut the racing out every day and put it into a scrapbook.
And you did, I guess you did the pony club circuit. Did you do that like a lot of
Yeah,
jockeys
we didn't do, we weren't a wealthy family, free school dinners when we were at school. And it wasn't, we weren't, in monetary terms, we certainly weren't wealthy, but in what we had, we were brought up on an 100 acre farm. You didn't really need home friends because there were so many of us anyway running around. And so we were very, very self-sufficient. We didn't have expensive in those days. It was sort of choppers and grifters, bicycles and what have you. Didn't have any of that. But what we did have was freedom to do whatever we wanted to. And we rode ponies quite often without saddles. And we went to all the sort of local gymkhanas up on Exmoor, Hawkridge, Simmons Bath, all sort of around those sort of places.
And your first, let's go back to the riding, your association with Captain Forster. Our younger listeners probably wouldn't remember Captain Forster. I would imagine he was very old school National Hunt trainer. I think you met him down at a point to point and started off with him, I think, age 16. Was that about right, Luke?
Yeah, I left. Some people might remember there's a jockey called Sandy May. Who used to ride for David Barron's, very good sort of West Country rider. And so when I started riding out for John Baker, and then John Roberts was actually head lad for John Baker, and he started up his own, so I used to ride out for him. I also rode out for a point-to-point trainer called Jeff White, whose son Johnson is now assistant trainer to Philip Hobbs. So I rode up for all these different people, and I got friendly with Sandy, was my idol, and it turned out he used to work for Captain Forster. And so I'd never left home when I was 16 before. I don't think I can't ever remember staying away for one single night away from home. So it was quite a move to go up to Oxfordshire. So Mum said I'd get upset. So she asked Sandy. So Sandy May drove me up to Letcombe Bassett, where Mark Bradstock actually trains now. And I arrived there on Wimbledon finals day, men's finals day. I don't know, was it 35 years ago? And all the lads had been down to the local pub. They're all lashed. I walked in, sort of wide-eyed. Oh my God, this is different. And I freely admit I hated it for the first month.
And I think I remember you saying that you were surprised how professional it all was. It was a different environment for something you were used to. Everybody working very hard. Everything had to be done just so. Come on, Captain Forster. I never met the gentleman, but what was he? Was he a hard taskmaster? I guess obviously army background, I assume, being a captain. What was he like to work for a ride out for?
As I said, I never went to private school, to boarding school, what have you. But I would imagine the environment we're in was very similar. You pulled out first on at 7:30, not at 29 minutes past, and certainly not at 31 minutes past. So you pulled out on time. You said good morning to morning governor, morning sir. It was a very sort of master-servant relationship. But having said that, I found it a very easy environment to get into. We worked hard, we played hard. Everything was set out for us. We only did, which is farcical now, we only did 3 horses each.
Wow.
Which, people are doing 5 and 6 horses each. But the first thing that struck me was how good are riders. I'd actually ridden in a couple of point-to-points by the time I'd got there. And I thought I was the next John Franklin, John Joe Neal. But, you get there and people, without wishing to sound demeaning, that were stable lads and were happy being stable lads, were better riders than me. And I thought, boy, oh boy, it really hit me how much further I needed to go before I could.
Bit of an eye opener then.
Yeah,
I guess.
It was, and the workload as well. When you're a young boy, you don't realize, and I was exhausted every night and going to bed. Probably go to bed at 8 o'clock because I was just so tired because I wasn't used to work. I found riding the horses very difficult. I found holding them very difficult. But do you know what? From the sort of, I had a blessed childhood, but a very sort of insular childhood where we didn't really mix with that many other people. Then I moved into a very similar environment where I was cocooned and protected, really.
Well, let me remind you, you might remember this quote, which I absolutely loved. Some people, again, the younger listeners may not remember, Huell Davis, jockey, who was riding for Captain Forster. And apparently you admitted at the time when you were with Captain that you had a lot to learn, and you said when Hewell Davis comes in